Folks, Black Star Network is here. hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Tuesday, September 19th, 2023, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The White House says state-run land-grant HBCUs are owed nearly $13 billion. Education Secretary Miguel Cardona and Ag Secretary Thomas Vilsack sent letters to 16 governors discussing the gaps in funding at these black schools. Conservative judicial activist Leonard Leo is under investigation for his efforts to install judges in federal courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court. Congresswoman Summer Lee will be here to explain how he's gotten away with this. Birmingham cops released the Bodycam video of the high school band director getting tased and arrested. We'll show you what led to that confrontation. And a black father and his two kids get harassed by a Kansas City, Missouri museum employee while the family is just trying to enjoy the displays. We'll show you this video. Plus, Vice President Kamala Harris continues her Fight for Our Freedoms college tour. We'll show you what she said to the Pennsylvania's Reading Area Community College students. It is time. And also, of course, we'll also have for you folks my interview with Liberian President George Weah. Elections are set to take place next month, and so we'll show you that conversation. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time, and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, Rolling with Roland now.
Folks, we've been covering the story dealing with the Alabama redistricting case, of course, and how the Supreme Court kicked it back and how Alabama has defied the U.S. Supreme Court because they want them to take another stab at it. Now, there was an investigation that was done that breaks down how conservative activist Leonard Leo, formerly head of the Federalist Society, the same guy who's gotten $1.6 billion from a conservative billionaire to essentially use that money any way he wants to. This now has resulted in, again, this dark money being used to fund many of these legal battles taking place all across the country. Well, based upon some recent reporting, what we are now seeing is how all of these things are linked together. Now, what's also amazing in the story that's being reported is that these conservatives, they in essence have said to one another that they've gotten the heads up that Brett Kavanaugh is likely going to switch his vote and likely side with them to keep from having to create a second black district. What their goal is to invalidate Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Joining us right now from D.C. is Pennsylvania Congresswoman Summer Lee. Glad to have you on the show. This story,
Congresswoman, I actually haven't been able to hear any of what's been happening right now.
Congresswoman, can you hear me?
I can hear now, but this is actually the first thing that I've been able to hear.
Okay, all right.
We started.
Okay, not sure.
This is in typical Zoom 2023 era. That this is the first thing that I can hear.
All right, so can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Got it. Okay, so we got you. All right, so this story that people have been talking about that details these various conservative efforts to impact the court. What really jumps out in this story is this notion that they essentially have gotten the heads up that Brett Kavanaugh is going to rule in their favor. And so Alabama, when they hear this from this Virginia law firm, so their whole deal is perfect. We're just going to completely ignore the Supreme Court, pass new maps, and hope and appeal this thing all the way back to the Supreme Court to get a second bite at the apple. So when you have these people who say you should not have more oversight of the courts, we literally have a Supreme Court now that is bought and paid for by conservative billionaires.
Yes. And it's that open. This is no longer, a covert mission. This is over at this point, right? We have a Supreme Court justice who is sending signals, smoke signals, carrier pigeons, however they get it. They're getting it directly from a Supreme Court justice who is also paid off or bought, by the Federalist Society, by Leonard Leo, and they're now making and taking actions with that in mind. Right. So we know that this is going to lead or can lead to further erosion of the Voting Rights Act. Like the implications on black folks, on black communities for this, are immeasurable. And yet we can see, we've seen and we've heard the stories about before this case, we heard the stories about Alito being flown out. We've heard the stories about, Clarence Thomas and all the gifts that they're getting. We heard about how, these what folks are calling sugar daddies, right, are giving openly and explicitly to Supreme Court justices who are supposed to be the model of ethics. They're supposed to be, they're supposed to uphold, justice, and justice is supposed to be blind, but here we have folks who are unapologetic in their unethical behavior.
And what still is baffling to me is to have these members of Congress who believe that the Supreme Court should just be self-governing, where they don't have to abide by ethics rules. You've got Justice Samuel Alito writing op-eds in the Wall Street Journal saying that, no, we're fine. You got Clarence Thomas, who now all of a sudden is reporting trips and then going, oh, well, I got advice from a friend and I have to do that. I mean, what's crazy to me, these are 9 unelected people, serve on the highest court in the land. Their decisions are final. And there's this brazen attitude of, we don't have to tell y'all a damn thing. who we hang out with. We could take free trips, private planes, yachts, things along those lines. And, oh, trust us, we're impartial.
First of all, Brother Roland, I don't believe for half a second that there are members of Congress who actually believe that the Supreme Court should not have any oversight. What we're seeing right now is a decades-long effort from Republicans, from right-wing activists to have a court stacked in their favor. And because it's operating, doing exactly what they've been wanting, eroding protections for LGBTQ plus people, eroding protections for Black folks, making it harder for Black students to go to school, making it harder for folks to vote, democracy reform, because they're actually doing all of these things that they've wanted, that they've been asking for. Now, all of a sudden, they don't believe that the Supreme Court needs any oversight. They don't believe that there are any ethics violations when folks are literally being flown out and they're spending time on yachts with people who will know and influence the outcome of their cases. If this were a liberal court and they were doing things like accepting luxury gifts, we wouldn't hear the end of it. If this was a court that was ruling in favor of civil rights, of rights for Black folks, this would not be the reaction from the right court. So what we have to talk about is their hypocrisy. And we can never take our feet off the gas when we talk about their hypocrisy, because they'll tell you one thing and they'll say one thing out loud and then they'll do another thing. And even if we see them, they will keep saying it until people believe them.
This is the story. It's from alreporter.com, and the headline says, "Dark Money, the backstory of Alabama's redistricting defiance," and by Bill Britt. And it is stunning, anybody who reads this story and they go through it and you see it, and you see what is clear, what is brazen, where these conservatives literally, how you have the paying of money to Jenny, to Clarence Thomas's wife, and how that's being circumvented, literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then how Leonard Leo is using all of these different organizations and shell groups to funnel money to various individuals. And then, like, here's a perfect example. It says here, go to my iPad. In addition, there now appears to be a significant connection between Alabama's post-Milligan map redrawing process, Leo's powerful national dark money network, and Kavanaugh. The tangled web of previously unreported ties centers around Marshall, Alabama Solicitor General Edmund LaCour, dubbed the architect behind Alabama's voting rights defiance, and the D.C. area law firm Consovoy McCarthy, the firm founded by William Consovoy, a now deceased former clerk to Justice Clarence Thomas, who represented Shelby County in Shelby County v. Holder. In Shelby County, the Supreme Court invalidated Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act and this vital pre-clearance provision, and it goes on and on. The thing that is crazy, do progressives understand what these folks are doing? I mean, do they fully understand that these folks have multiple billionaires who are funding this because they want to control the Supreme Court? Because what they've decided is, if we don't control the White House, don't control the House, don't control the Senate, we can still control the country if we control the Supreme Court.
I'm going to speak for a progressive. I'm going to speak for me. And absolutely progressives understand this. Progressives understand this more than other people because we are also being attacked by the exact same entity to keep us out of office. When we think about the influence of dark money, we're talking about the Supreme Court. But this isn't the only place where we're seeing that influence. We're seeing that influence on Congress, on local and state government, and it's almost certainly tied to the exact same people. Paul Singer, who is one of the folks in this dark web, this tangled web that we're talking about, is also in the tangled web of keeping progressive Black women out of Congress. This money that's coming in is only tangled and only a tangled, dark, deep web because we don't have transparency, because we don't have protections since imposed in Citizens United, and that is intentional. If we can't track where people are giving their money, where we can have organizations, super PACs, whatever it may be, who are able to collect money from billionaires who don't ever have to disclose, who don't have to be in the open with their hatred, don't have to be in the open with their racism, but can still make moves, can still pull strings. We're seeing these connections all throughout our government and throughout our system. But people don't want to talk about, money and politics when we talk about democracy reform. But this all impacts Black people. If we can't get Black folks into the Senate, into the United States Senate, then how are we going to confirm judges who care and understand how important getting dark money out of the Supreme Court is going to be, right? So these things go hand in hand.
Last question for you. When I try to talk about judges and how critically important they are, people sort of gloss over. There are a lot of African Americans who say, well, I want to see this. And I keep saying, you could ask for a whole bunch of stuff, but don't think for a second that even if you get it, if it gets passed by Congress, you're not going to have some white conservative group sue to stop it from happening. Yep. The money going to Black farmers. And we can go on and on and on in what we're seeing. We're now seeing Ed Bloom. They've dropped their lawsuit today suing West Point because the Supreme Court did a carve-out in their affirmative action decision saying that it's in the national interest to continue affirmative action at the military academies. They're now trying to sue West Point. They're not even happy with that Supreme Court decision. They want it all. And I keep saying to Black folks, do not play around with the 2024 election, because what these people want to do is going to have a direct impact on our children's children. And if we sit at home, and then I had some dude shouted at me in the car when I was in Atlanta on Sunday, man, you keep talking about the Democrats. I'm going, let me be real clear, player. I said, if the right wins the White House and wins the Senate, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, they gonna retire. They want to lock down. And matter of fact, you may have one of those liberal justices retire. They would love a 7-2 hard right Supreme Court and go appoint some other 45-year-old who's gonna be there the next 40 to 50 years.
And that's been their play the entire time. For decades and decades and decades, the Republican Party has been meticulously implementing their judicial strategy. Went over and appoint people, extreme conservatives, to federal bench, younger and younger, because we know that these folks serve longer. That Trump was able to get as many appointees is unprecedented and truly unfortunate. But we know that Black folks are going to be the first and hardest impacted, and have already been, will be again in 2024 if we get caught slipping. Affirmative action was the first big hit that we've taken, but it wasn't a surprise. It was no more a surprise than Roe v. Wade. These are things that they've explicitly said they're coming for when they get the seats. They said they're coming for it if we win, and we keep turning a blind eye. But on the same token, we also need the Democratic Party to create urgency around that. Yep. Make the stakes known in Black communities. And you can do that by supporting Black candidates who speak their languages. We can't just say that we want Black folks to come out and show out without showing them that we are going to support people who understand them, who walk their walk and talk their talk. We can do both at the same time so that we can make it easier for Black people to feel invested, to feel like they have a vested interest. But there's more to come. There's absolutely more to come with the Supreme Court. There's more to come if Trump is in office. So we have to make sure that we're covering all of our bases in educating and empowering the electorate and in expanding the electorate. We found women who are galvanized now because of the fall of Roe. Well, we need to go and get those same Black folks who should be galvanized because Roe impacts us. The same Black folks who are galvanized because affirmative action falling impacts us. Black folks because Citizens United impacts us. Because erosion of queer rights impacts us. We have to make those stakes clear to us.
Well, it is definitely going to be a busy year. And yeah, they are executing that strategy. And I keep telling people, there's a way to stop them. Beat them at the ballot box. That's how you beat them, because if they don't win the White House and they don't control the Senate, they cannot appoint their judges. That's how you beat them. Congresswoman Summer Lee, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Folks, going to a break. We'll be back. We'll talk with my panel about this. Also talk about HBCU funding. The Biden administration is saying $13 billion. States, pay up. We'll discuss that next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
seen a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol. We've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance.
We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach. And on the next Get Wealthy, you'll meet Jandy Turner, who took her love of sports, expanded her network, and created a thriving business.
I settled on developing a golf event planning business, which in and of itself has been very viable for me. One of the things that I've learned from producing hundreds, if not thousands, of golf tournaments is that business gets done on the golf course.
All on The Next Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder Disney Plus, and I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
All right, folks, let's bring in my panel right now. Mustafa Santiago Ali, of course, former senior advisor for the EPA. He joins us right now, Washington, D.C. Randy Bryant, DEI disruptor, also from D.C. Joe Richardson. Joe, of course, civil rights attorney. Joe is joining us out of Los Angeles. Mustafa, I'm going to start with you. All the people who are watching and listening, I'm like, y'all, this is real. This is not practice. This is not a drill. What the right wing is trying to do, they literally have the Supreme Court in their pocket. They control Clarence Thomas. They control Sam Alito. They control Brett Kavanaugh. They control them, these billionaires. Clarence Thomas has changed his position on one case to help one of these billionaires. The only way to stop these people is to not let the Republicans win. Folk better wake the hell up and realize exactly what is going on.
Yeah, you know, almost from the beginning of the show, we have been talking about, one, the importance of judges and that there is a strategy for Republicans to actually gain power, and how they were going to do it through these infrastructure sorts of actions of owning the courts, both on the federal level, the state, county, and the local level. And folks should understand that when we say that, this is not theory. We're not just throwing stuff out there. We know these types of things are happening. There is a cabal. Most people don't even know what that word means, but just think about a clique, a secret political clique that's in place. When you hear the conversations around dark money in the 2022 election, we could track about $350 million that was moved through that election through dark money. And that's why when we were working on campaign finance reform before, knowing how critical it was to get this money out of politics, because we saw the games that were being played. We kept trying to get people to pay attention, trying to get everyday folks to understand that you have power, but you got to get engaged in the process. You got to vote so that we can make sure the right folks are in there and we can finally, sort of extract all this negative sorts of sets of actions that are going on. And when you don't do it, you find yourself in this situation now where we're up against the wall.
$1.6 billion, Joe. A conservative billionaire literally transferred $1.6 billion to a nonprofit that Leonard Leo can spend any way he wants. That is some serious money. They love complaining about George Soros and yelling and screaming. They hate George Soros because he uses his money for progressive causes, but there are multiple conservative billionaires. We ain't even talking about the whole Koch network. These people, these conservative billionaires, they are trying to change everything from state capitals to state legislatures to county commissioners to city hall, you name it, that's what they're doing.
Right, exactly. And every, even though the courts is thing one for them, and which is why they're not so worried about influencing public opinion per se. The Republican Party didn't have a platform, if you remember last time. It was just re-electing Trump. But still, they're to still do work at the bottom as well, something that maybe we didn't pay attention to the best way that we could have. But your fallback is knowing in some situations it's your first resort, in your other situations it's your last resort, that you have a Supreme Court that supports you. They had to, dark money is a trip, man. They had to know in Alabama that somehow, some way, they thought that they wouldn't be just banging their head trying to do something again that would not have success. And now, in a world where in order for your institutions to be trustworthy, they have to avoid the appearance of impropriety entirely. If Kavanaugh ever changes his vote on this issue and it comes back, well, then the image is ruined. We know what's going on, and this confirms it. He's not going to be able to confirm it any other way, but, seeing it any other way. But the problem is they don't care anymore. That's what's happening. That's why it's happening so openly. They're not even playing around and faking it like it's something other than what it actually is. They aren't worried about how it looks anymore at all, and that's why they have the expectations that they do. And we'll see if Kavanaugh comes through for them, and then we'll all know what we already know.
Randy, this is what when I say I'm trying to warn these people. Ed Bloom, they went after the affirmative action in colleges. They're now suing a black women-led venture capital firm out of Atlanta. They've sent letters to law firms saying your race-based programs, your efforts to get more black and minority lawyers in the field, we're going after those. You've worked in corporate America. They're going after every corporate program, every affinity group in corporate America. They're doing this because the Supreme Court is allowing them to do so. A federal judge in Tennessee ruled in favor of a white woman over the federal 8A program. Now they've had to change that as well. There is nothing that they are not going to go after. And so for any black person who is sitting here giving me BS about why they don't want to vote and how it doesn't matter, Randy, they need to understand anything that black people have done to try to advance, they are going to go after it now.
I feel like being the black female Paul Revere and riding through the streets and yelling at my people like, wake up, the end of the Spike Lee movie, because they are already currently going after everything. There are lawsuits right now that are fighting against elementary schools that have programs to promote diversity. They're saying that it's a bait and switch when they decide to let students, black students, into the schools. So they are trying to bar us from everything. There is a lawsuit going against the black graduations that they have at Ivy League schools. I mean, things that seem somewhat innocuous, they want to be gotten rid of. They don't want anything that appears that it would benefit us in any way. So this is critical right now. I mean, every day I'm reading about something that the conservative Republicans are going after to obliterate from existing. And they're being very successful because the Supreme Court opened the door for them to be able to do it.
A white teacher in South Carolina got reported and reprimanded because a white student said that, because she was discussing a Ta-Nehisi Coates book, The students explained the book made them feel ashamed to be white, which violates South Carolina law, which forbids teachers from making students, quote, feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress when it comes to race. They literally passed that law. South Carolina, Texas, Florida, Arkansas, we can go on and on and on. I'm sitting here going, black folks, y'all might want to wake the hell up. They're coming. They're coming for everything. And if Trump wins, if the Republicans keep control of the House, they keep control, or they take over the United States Senate, if they keep winning the Supreme Court, these state Supreme Courts, then they get to pass the laws. The courts get to affirm their laws. Now it gets locked into place, and now you can't change it. And with gerrymandering, they can guarantee they're gonna win. If you're black and you're sitting here going, I'm not quite sure if I'm going to vote, if they win and start getting rid of everything, shut the hell up. I don't want to hear no complaining, no tweeting, no TikTok videos, no Instagram, because people like you, those who don't vote, will be the reason why these people are able to do it. Hold on one second, we come back. I'm going to show you the body cam footage of the band director in Birmingham who was tased and arrested. That's next on Roland Martin Unfiltered, right here on the Black Star Network.
All change is not growth. Right. But thoughtful change is real good fertilizer. And that's what has been so beneficial to us.
But you also were not afraid of the pivot.
Well, and I'm a black woman in business. Come on, I don't care how I dress up. I don't care who I'm speaking with. I don't care what part of the world I am in. I still am a black woman in business. Being afraid of the pivot, being fearful of change is not what got me here. Respectful of change, respectful of pivot, yeah. Fearful, no, no.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Latasha from the A.
And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, Birmingham police have released the body cam footage of the minor high school band director, Johnny Mims, who, when officers tased him for not stopping his band from playing after Thursday night's football game. Check it out.
going to jail. He's going to jail. He hit the officer. He got to go to jail. He swung on the officer. I did not swing on the officer, man. Y'all grab him up. I got the phone. He's going to jail because I asked him for respect. No, sir. That's some disrespect. That's some kids, man. How you going to chase me? How you going to chase me, man? Let me go, bro. It's a horse taser. Hold up, someone got my taser. Ain't nobody leaving until I get my taser. Nope, I'm grabbing kids. Hold up, I swear. Ain't nobody leaving. Kids, to the bus. Come on, y'all. Respectfully, y'all stop. Here you go, right here. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, man. I ain't believing this.
All right, so allow me to unpack this. So yesterday, I talked with Mims and his attorney on yesterday's show. So and this is why I've always said why body cam footage is important. Now, even in the beginning of that video, we couldn't hear most of it because the band was playing. So let me say it maybe real clear. After watching the body cam video, you hear the officers say they're trying to clear the stadium. You can see in the background the other band had left. Now, I talked to some people today in Birmingham. The game took place in a Birmingham city stadium, but it was a game between a Birmingham school district school and a Birmingham county. It was a county school. So Mims apparently was with the county school. This is my problem with what Mims did. Mims' actions exacerbated the problem. On the video, you hear Mims say, "Man, get out my face." Let's be perfectly clear. If you tell a cop, "Man, get out my face," they're likely not going to respond well. That was one. You saw the officers explaining to the assistant, whoever the guy was, the first guy, then it went to the band director. They're literally telling the band director, "We have to clear the stadium." He continues to ignore them. He says, "Get out of my face." You watch the video. They say, "You are going to get arrested." Mims goes, "Okay." So the cops say, "You gonna get arrested." He goes, "Okay," does it a couple times. He then takes the band higher. They get louder. Now, I do not change my position from what I said yesterday, that the cops should have de-escalated. The brother who was talking to him with the main body camera, the sister who was next to him, who was saying, "We're going to call the superintendent," this is what they should have said. "Okay, since you're fine getting arrested, we're going to let you finish. And when you get done directing the band, we're going to put you under arrest." What they should have done was when the lights got turned off. Okay? First of all, they should have kept the lights on. What they should have said is, and then when he went down, what they should have done was, they should have said, sir, we told you that if you continue to play, we're going to arrest you. We're now going to arrest you. Please put your hands behind your back. There was no need to pull out tasers or guns or even grab him. See, again, what you do is you talk calmly. You got enough cops. Sir, you defied police orders. We told you you were going to get arrested, and you said, okay, we're now about to arrest you. So they do that, they don't escalate the situation. Now, in the video, you hear the officer say, you swung at one of us. He said, well, no, I didn't. Well, the body cam footage, because there are multiple cameras going to say that. This is an example for me, Joe, where two wrongs do not make a right. I totally understand our discussion yesterday, but Principal Mims was wrong to tell the cops multiple times, I think in the video it says 7, man, get out my face. Joe, he was wrong.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I remember speaking to some kids a few years back at a college, and we were talking about how they can survive a police contact. And they took it to mean that they were, we were telling them to be soft and to relent or whatever else. And what I said to them is I said, I'd rather have a discussion with you after you survive the contact than to have a discussion with your parents because you didn't survive the contact. And so, one of the things you have to do, and he has to remember even, Brother Mims here, is that he's got kids watching him, right? And so he's setting an example for better or for worse in that, maybe it doesn't cost him his life. Maybe he survives, and he does survive that way. But is it a situation where he is beyond reproach entirely, or where there's enough gray area where basically this is just going to be a bunch of people shouting at the rain in each direction and nothing's going to happen moving forward? Now, he's got a problem. The problem that the police have is that, because fairly or unfairly, in the eyes of many Black folks, the police and people, from an authority standpoint in that regard are working from a deficit anyway, right? And so if they're working for a deficit and if they really think that's unfair, what that means, life is unfair. I tell people all the time, when somebody says something that's unfair, well, is it real? What's really going on is that people will put police in a box and depending on who you are, deservedly so. And so what happens is you have to go above and beyond. The police were never in danger. They had an opportunity to plant goodwill with everybody there, including those young people who may be traumatized by the experience, even if Mr. Mim has some responsibility towards it. And they blew that opportunity. They weren't in any physical danger.
Well, and look, and obviously the principal, he was heightened. This to me again, Randy, is where if you're the cops and you see you're dealing with an agitated person, you then don't get agitated as well. But again, seeing the video here, and I'm taking into account the conversation yesterday, the band director was wrong. The band director should not have said, man, get out my face. He was wrong. The band director could have said, officers, can we play for 60 more seconds? No, he didn't do that. He was disrespectful to the officers. He was wrong. But it doesn't mean they also should have tased him.
Right. And police officers are typically called because someone is wrong, because something wrong is happening. And so police officers need to have the skills to be able to deal with those situations in a way that serves everyone the best, and not in a way where their egos become so involved that they forget. I feel like everyone forgot the children that were there, because those kids will never forget what they just witnessed. And it was an opportunity for them to build, the police officers to build some goodwill within the community. I could not help but to think, although the band director was wrong and could have handled it better, my mind goes to, why is he acting this way? Why is this so important to him? Right? And so I just wonder, and as a person who has been at schools where I was in like one of only Black children, and then the absolute reverse, I wonder, because I believe there's so much focus on killing Black joy, right? And that if there's a school up the street that's predominantly white and those bands are able to play a little bit later, but here you have this brother trying to, the kids were clearly enjoying what was happening. It was a good activity that keeps them out of trouble. And it always, like, our joy has to be shut down and policed.
But here's the deal, though. Again, Mustafa, first of all, and again, I get it. First of all, I can't tell you what neighborhood the stadium is in. I can't tell you what the conditions are outside. But here's the deal, and I've been to a lot of high school games. And it's very simple. If it's time to go, it's time to go. I get the fifth quarter. I totally get it. I fundamentally believe, and I've asked the question, I've not gotten the answer yet. Does the Birmingham Independent School District have a policy that states once the game is over, we allow the bands to play for a certain amount of time? That's the first question. What is the actual policy once the game is over? Now, I can tell you, when Beyonce's concert was over, they were like, time to leave the stadium. I've been to NFL games, NBA games. All right, folks, game is over. It's time to clear out. Those things actually happen. So, to avoid this in the future, the school district, the stadium, must have a clear, defined policy that's articulated to everyone in terms of how we respond. If the cops are supposed to clear the stadium as soon as the game is over, maybe they give people 10 minutes to sort of, high five and hug and whatever. But it's time for you to go. I just still believe, I'm a firm believer that how people handle things determines how things end up. This is not me saying the band director had to sit here and kiss the cop's ass, but I'm just telling you right now, if the cops are telling you to do something and your response is, man, get out my face, 7 times, it's about to be a problem.
Well, we saw that it was a problem. So, yeah, there's still unanswered questions, and folks need to know what those are. So, as you stated, there's clarity for folks in the future about what the set of expectations are. But, there are also these other dynamics, and we touched on those. One, when you utilize tasers, you have no idea about what someone's health situations are. They can very easily end a life. The other part of it is, as Randy said and Joe said, these kids are going to be traumatized. They're going to have to carry that now for the rest of their life, and it's going to be much more difficult for them to see law enforcement in a positive way. But the most important part is that you got to use your brain, especially in the society that we currently live in. And when you don't do that, you're going to find yourself in situations that in many instances are not going to be ones that are positive or going to come out in a positive way in relationship to our communities. It never has. Hopefully it will in the future, but in this particular moment, that's not the case. So all the adults who are in that situation should have used their brains and shown a little grace to each other. But the reality is you got to follow what police officers are saying, as long as it's not going to, end up putting you in a dangerous situation.
Indeed, indeed. All right, folks, going to a break. When we come back, Black family in Missouri just trying to sit here and enjoy themselves. Why is a white man following them? Daddy not happy at all. We're going to show you that video on the show as well. Plus, Vice President Kamala Harris makes another tour on her Fight for Our Freedoms college tour. We'll show you some of that. And when I was in Liberia last week, I sat down with the president of Liberia, George Weah. We're going to show you that encore presentation of that. And, of course, the elections are taking place next month there in Liberia. Folks, you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, YouTube folks, hit that like button, y'all. Easy thing to do, hit the like button. Support us in what we do. Join the Bring the Funk fan club. Send your check and money orders. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available bookstores nationwide. Download the audio version on Audible. I'll be right back.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes. Producer, writer, and activist Drew Dixon joins us for an honest conversation about Black women and trauma, right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
On the next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, we're going to be talking about common sense. We think that people have it, know how to use it, but it is something that people often have to learn. The truth is, most of us are not born with it, and we need to teach common sense, embrace it, and give it to those who need it most, our kids.
So I always tell teachers to listen out to what conversations the students are having about what they're getting from social media, and then let's get ahead of it and have the appropriate conversations with them.
On the next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
Next on The Black Tape with me, Greg Carr. What do Deion Sanders, a lawnmower, and the phenomenon of invisible labor all have in common? They're all now part of, shall we say, a colorful lore at our historically Black colleges and universities. Our Master Educator Roundtable convenes to explain it all as we explore the good, the bad, and the downright ugly of one of Black America's national treasures. That's next on The Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Jamia Pugh. I am from Coatesville, Pennsylvania, just an hour right outside of Philadelphia.
My name is Jasmine Pugh. I'm also from Coatesville, Pennsylvania.
You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
Black man in a museum in Kansas City, Missouri, just walking around with his two children, trying to enjoy the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art, exposed them to different things and said the young kids were exposed to being followed by a white man. Watch this.
I think they're building a boat.
Oh, I got you.
I think they're building a boat.
They're building a boat. This is old tombs, so people used to be buried in them tombs in there. See, like people be inside of there, they be buried. This is their tombs. This is their grave site. Slow down. Yeah, people will be buried in those. In their grave womb, you know, it's a tomb or whatever. Are you about to follow us the whole time, man? Are you about to follow us the whole time?
Sir, I'm just making...
I'm asking, I asked you a question. I didn't say nothing else. Are you about to follow me the whole time? Because if you're going to follow me the whole time, then give us a goddamn tour. I know how to control my kids. You asked me to make sure they don't run, I'm not going to do that. I said I know how to control my kids. You asked me not to make sure that they don't run, I won't do that. Now, if you're going to follow me the whole time, then give me a tour. Make it worth my while. Then otherwise, stop following me. I'm trying to enjoy the museum with my kids. Are you following anybody else that got kids? Because I'm not the only one here with kids. Are you following anybody else? Are you not going to argue with me? Because it do you no good. Because I haven't done anything. You roll your eyes all you want to. You look like a little girl. Tighten up, man. Tighten up. Like I said, if you're going to keep following me, go get your manager. Because like I said, it's all on film. It came when you first approached me to when you still been following me. And now that I had questioned you, it's still on film. It's going to look like you being racist to a black man with his 2 children at the museum.
I'm not trying
because you're not over there following them. You're not following them. You're not following them. They have a child too. They have a small child too. So, no, there ain't no excuse. Either you're being because I'm a man or you're doing it because I'm a black man. It's in both ways you're being different.
I didn't do it that way.
Okay, so are you about to give me a tour? Are you about to give me a tour?
I can talk to you about some of the
No.
if you'd like, sir.
If you're going to follow me around, then you better give me a tour. Otherwise, stop following me.
Sir,
Plain and simple.
I'm hired here to keep track.
Okay, but if you follow me one more time, I'm going to get your manager. So stop following me. Let's go.
Randy told his ass, tighten up.
And I love that he called his little butt out. And I love that my favorite line was when he said, if you're going to follow me, can you at least give us a tour? Make him uncomfortable instead of being uncomfortable. You have this father trying to educate his children and being harassed. It's absolutely unacceptable. When I was doing DEI work, I have trained 2 museums about this because museums at one point were seen as this hoity-toity only for certain types of people. And now that museums are trying to bring in all people, and because they are for all people, they have had to train the staff on how to ensure that you're not acting in this way and being discriminatory.
I got a kick out of that one, Mustafa. My man was like, hey, you gonna give us a tour?
He said exactly the right thing. He's like, if you're going to take up my time, you're going to be in my space, then make yourself, utilized in a positive way. The reality of the situation is that there are still some who do not see the value in our participation, whether it's in a museum or a number of other locations. They don't feel that those are places for us. And we have to continue to push back. We have to continue, like this brother did, to call it out. But we also got to take it a step further, because I appreciate what he said, I'm going to talk to your manager, or I'm going to talk to the curator of the museum, because they need to know about this type of behavior so that they, as an institution, are also held accountable.
There's one thing I cannot stand, Joe, is that following me around crap. Oh,
yeah, that's not a good look at all. He came out on him and let him know what was what. I got a snicker out of the tighten up thing, for a second there too. But then he got right back where he's supposed to be in the matter at hand. Like, look, listen, hey, it is Missouri, so you can show me. Take me on a tour. You know what I mean? Take me on a tour if you're going to do that. And it looks like, I guess I didn't see it all, but it looks like his kids were pretty okay as well while he was talking to him or whatever else. They seemed like, they were okay. But, the kids are innocent, all right? And this is something they are exploring. They're asking questions. They're finding out things. They're seeing things that they haven't seen before. And the idea that this person would interrupt that in the name of safety, which he obviously connects with familiarity. And to Brother Mustafa's point, it's still this thing that this is yours but not ours, okay? This is ours but not ours. This is mine but not ours. It's really a shame, but I think he called it pretty well. I wonder if he sees him again, if he'd do it the same way.
He's probably going to think twice about it. All right, y'all, hold tight 1 second. VP Kamala Harris continues her Fight for Our Freedoms tour. We'll show you what took place today in Pennsylvania. Also, the president of Liberia. We talk about the future of that country. We'll show you that as well. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach. And on the next Get Wealthy, you'll meet Jandy Turner, who took her love of sports, expanded her network, and created a thriving business.
I settled on developing a golf event planning business, which in and of itself has been very viable for me. One of the things that I've learned from producing hundreds, if not thousands, of golf tournaments is that business gets done on the golf course.
All on The Next Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
All change is not growth.
Right.
But thoughtful change is real good fertilizer. And that's what has been so beneficial to us.
But you also were not afraid of the pivot.
Well, and I'm a black woman in business. Come on, I don't care how I dress up. I don't care who I'm speaking with. I don't care what part of the world I am in. I still am a black woman in business. Being afraid of the pivot, being fearful of change is not what got me here. Respectful of change, respectful of pivot, yeah. Fearful, no, no.
My name is Lena Charles, and I'm from Opelousas, Louisiana. Yes, that is Zydeco capital of the world.
My name is Margaret Chappelle. I'm from Dallas, Texas, representing the Urban Trivia Game.
It's me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you watch.
Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Today is National Voter Registration Day in Pennsylvania. The governor, Josh Shapiro, issued new regulations that eligible voters will be automatically registered to vote upon receiving a driver's license or an ID card.
Pennsylvania, it is National Voter Registration Day, and today I am proud to announce that for the first time ever, Pennsylvania is an automatic voter registration state. That's right, from now on, when you get or renew your driver's license or an ID card at the DMV, you'll be registered to vote unless you choose not to. I made a commitment when I was campaigning for this office that we would bring automatic voter registration to Pennsylvania and break down the barriers for legal, eligible voters. This is a key step to make our elections more secure, adding important levels of verification to the voter registration process. And by expanding voter registration at our DMVs, we'll save taxpayers time and money, reduce the number of costly paper registrations, and streamline voter registration for Pennsylvanians. Look, this is common sense. You already provide proof of identity, residency, age, and citizenship at the DMV. All the information you need to register to vote. We're making our state government work better for the good people of Pennsylvania. No matter who you choose to vote for or what your views are, I hope you'll make your voice heard. Now more than ever, we need an engaged citizenry to move our country and our Commonwealth forward.
Somebody posted in our chat, I think this is everywhere, Roland. No, it's not. Pennsylvania becomes the 24th state in the country to register voters automatically. Trust me, Mustafa, this is pissing off Republicans.
Oh, without a doubt, because let's be clear, they don't want you to vote, and they'll put any type of obstacle in place that they can. I mean, the reality is that everyone should automatically be registered to vote, and if you don't want to vote, you can opt out. Just like we opt into certain things, you know, if you have your name that's already on that list, you could opt out. And why is that important? Because, you know, the United States has one of the lowest voter turnouts of industrialized nations across our planet. So if we want to talk about democracy, then we should be focused on one of the key elements, which is the ability to be able to vote. And we should do everything that we can to eliminate the hurdles.
Absolutely. And the thing here, again, Randy, when we look at automatic voter registration, we talk about ballot drop boxes, whatever. Republicans are doing everything to make it harder because they know shrink the electorate, better chance at win. They've even said you expand the electorate, give them more choices, they will lose.
Right. And that's why I know they are mad about this happening, which makes me even thrill. People should have, voting should be easy. It should not be burdensome. And so what he did is right. It supports democracy, giving people the right to vote and making it where it's not difficult. Because we know the Republicans do everything in their power to block us from voting.
And they already are widely complaining about this, Joe, which I don't understand because, I mean, if you turn 18 and you got to automatically register for selective service or whatever the hell they still do, I'm like, this ain't that damn hard. But no, they do not want to make it easy.
No, the game is to keep as many people from voting as possible. It's not about a battle of ideas anymore and debating those things. I mean, Jesse Jackson was talking about motor voter back in the 80s. And so it's great that the DMV in Pennsylvania becomes the DMVV, the Department of Motor Vehicles and Voting. This is absolutely a good look. And Pennsylvania is showing a good example of some tough contested elections where the Democrats have been able to win and been able to do some positive things in office afterward. And I think it's a good, hopefully it's a good omen for other states and a good example to follow.
Folks, today, Vice President Kamala Harris was in Pennsylvania at the Reading, Pennsylvania Area Community College since it's National Voter Registration Day. She told the students why they must do their part to make sure their voices are heard.
In 2020, we had a record voter turnout.
Yeah.
And in 2022, we had a near youth record voter turnout. Yes, so that's all y'all. So I'm assuming we have some people who voted for the first time here in 2020 and probably for the first time in 2022. And now we have people who are going to vote for the first time in our 2024 election, which is really exciting. Why is it so important that we use our voice? And how do we garner information to do so?
So to your point, Annie, can I see a show of hands who voted for the first time in 2020 or in 2022? That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And by the way, today is National Voter Registration Day. So for everyone who is not yet registered, please use the celebration of today as a way to get registered. And I also want to give a shout out to the governor because today they have announced that when you renew or when you apply for your driver's license or state ID, you're automatically registered to vote. So let's make sure, right, that we let everybody know. And to your point, so here's the thing. First of all, when I think about what happened in 2020, it always is that people will say about younger people, they're not going to vote. Oh, your vote won't matter. But we had record turnout in 2020 of young voters because they understood, just like these leaders understand, that of the many ways you can make a difference in our country, one of the tools that you have is voting to make a difference. So when people turned out in 2020, even though they were the doubters, I would say some of the haters, let's keep it real, record turnout, and it's because you voted that Joe Biden is President of the United States and I'm Vice President of the United States. It's because you voted, right?
Yeah.
Because young people, and in particular young voters, said we are going to direct and decide what is the direction of our country, we had a whole initiative that's about forgiveness of student loans. Now, the court just recently went against us on that, but we're not going to stop fighting for that. Because young people said we're not leaving it to other people to decide how we're dealing with the climate crisis. You know, I've heard young leaders talk with me about a term they've coined called climate anxiety, right? Which is fear of the future and the unknown, of whether it makes sense for you to even think about having children, whether it makes sense for you to think about aspiring to buy a home, because what will this climate be? But because people voted, we have been able to put in place over $1 trillion in investment in our country around things like climate resilience and adaptation, around focusing on issues like environmental justice, and understanding that despite what these extremist so-called leaders are trying to do when they're trying to get rid of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, we know that we're going to stay committed to issues like equity, because here's the thing. Yeah, we want everyone to have an equal amount, but not everyone starts out on the same base. And so if you give everyone an equal amount, but you don't start out on the same base, you're still going to end up with people being treated differently.
Yep.
Equity says, let's take that into account.
Yep.
And young voters and young leaders are then in a position, and have been, to fight against these extremists who try to say things like DEI are bad, because they don't want to have a conversation about equity and inclusion and have a conversation that's about saying, well, as a leader, can you pay attention to who's not in the room and then figure out a way to invite them in?
Thank you.
And leave the door open?
Yeah. I mean, in low-income areas, Latinos make up about 15% of the voting population, and we only showed up to about 10% of the polls. 1 in every 4 youth are now Latino.
Yeah.
And there's so much of a divide there of what you're saying. Like, how do we encourage our youth to come show up to the polls and get excited about it?
Well, one is that we have to really remind each other, and to all the young leaders here, there is no better way to lead than to do it as a peer, meaning we can talk with young people about what they need to do, but when you are talking to your peers about how you know it makes a difference, your leadership is so powerful. And so talking with our peers and family members about the fact that when you vote, it actually determines whether the person who is holding elected office is going to fight for your freedoms and rights or not. Whether that be the freedom that you should have to just be free from attack, free from hate, free from gun violence, free from bias, free to love who you love and be open about it. Free to have access to the ballot box without people obstructing your ability to exercise your civic right.
Yep.
To vote in terms of who will be the people holding elected office and leading your country. All of these things are at stake.
Love all these folks who keep saying, and I had people tell me this, Mustafa, I never see the vice president. She ain't out here. And I literally said, Vice President Kamala Harris is, I mean, I think back to really me paying attention to politics since 1980. She has been the most visible vice president in my lifetime. I'm like, if you ain't see what she doing, your ass ain't paying attention.
Well, my grandmother says you see what you want to see. So let's just be clear that there are some who don't want to see how active she has been, how committed she has been, and that she would make an excellent president if the opportunity arises. I've never understood how our community, and we'll talk about our community, can love everybody else who's in their life, and I've never met someone who's been in my life who's never made a mistake, but yet when it comes to the vice president, because there was one thing that everybody kept talking about, then they wanted to devalue her and say that she was not representing our people. Every time that I've talked to her, every time I work with her, the first thing she was always concerned with was, how will this impact our communities? How will this uplift our communities? So we need to really understand the value added that she brings to the political scene, but also to everyday people's lives, and start to rally around our own, because other people rally around theirs when given the opportunity. It's time for us to do the exact same thing. And that doesn't mean that we agree with everything, but that means that we work with the individuals. If they have gaps, then we work with them to address those gaps. If they've fallen short, we work with them to help them to understand how to make sure that they're making the strides that we are expecting. But we should stop throwing our own underneath of the bus when they're doing everything they can to uplift our own communities.
I just think, Randy, it's some folk who are scared to death, and I think it's two things also. this country is absolutely misogynistic, including for women. And I think a lot of the attacks on Vice President Kamala Harris, I think it's because she's a woman and because she's black.
100%. And when people say they don't see her working, I hope people are aware that mainstream media has never been kind to black folks and to women. So even when she's out there working, that's why it's so important, Roland, with your show, because let's not act like the mainstream media is going to give her her props or show what she's doing day to day the same way they would a white man. That's first, right? And so absolutely, because she's a woman, they don't want to give her any credit for what she's doing. And we need to be aware of that and surround our sister who is out there day after day. If you're paying attention, if you're watching your show, Roland, you will see how hard she's working specifically for us. I will say too, though, that people also need to understand the way government works. I get so tired of hearing people saying, well, what did Barack do? Or what did Kamala do? I think they think that people could just go inside the White House and say, you know what? This is what I'm doing, as if they're not checks and balances, as if laws don't have to be passed. I just don't think that people quite get the way government works.
Joe.
Kamala Harris got Joe Biden over the finish line. Joe Biden had never run a good campaign and wasn't running a good campaign the third time. Brother Clyburn and a bunch of us who didn't believe in the Bernie Sanders phenomenon made our decision starting in South Carolina that this was going to flip and that's what needed to happen. She had a lot to do with getting the voters out, getting black voters out, et cetera. And I am very comfortable personally with her as a heartbeat away from the presidency. And so she doesn't get the props that she ought to. We've got to all get better. When I say we, I mean even black people, and particularly black men, about not being misogynistic. There is something to answer for. Hillary Clinton wasn't perfect, but she was a whole lot better than Donald Trump was. And, I've talked to some brothers in different spots who will just, reveal themselves and being misogynistic themselves. And so our vice president might get a bit of that. But what does she do? She just continues doing the work. I think she's going to be as important as she was previously. This tour she's doing right now is dealing with voting, is dealing with a lot of issues. It was great that she was in Pennsylvania at the time the governor did what he did. And so she'll continue to be important. But we have to make a decision to have the urgency that we need to do, that we need to have in order to come out and vote in what she's talking about. And unless and until the mainstream media covers her and wants to talk about what the president and the vice president are actually doing and not what Donald Trump is thinking about doing or musing about, we're going to still have to cover her the best way we can, like so.
Yep. Joe, Randy, Mustafa, I certainly appreciate it. Thanks so very much for joining us on today's panel. Thanks a bunch. Folks, got to go to a break. We come back. I sit down. George Weah, president of Liberia, of that country. The election is taking place next month. You get to see our conversation next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. What do Deion Sanders, a lawnmower, and the phenomenon of invisible labor all have in common? They're all now part of, shall we say, colorful lore at our historically black colleges and universities. Our Master Educator Roundtable convenes to explain it all as we explore the good, the bad, and the downright ugly of one of Black America's national treasures. That's next on the Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash. last
This
year.
is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
In 2022, my Black Star Network team traveled to Liberia to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the founding of that country by formerly enslaved people of African descent from the United States. It was an amazing time. It was an opportunity for us to learn about the country, to see what has been going on in Liberia since the founding, but also since they had the devastating civil war that lasted 15 years. We sat down with a number of people, talked about the future of Liberia, including President George Weah. It was an eye-opening experience for all of us. President Weah, glad to sit down with you here in Liberia for your bicentennial.
Martin, good to see you. Welcome.
Let's start off with this bicentennial. The focus is not on Liberian independence. It's on the first enslaved people from America, freed enslaved folks, formerly enslaved, who came to this country. What do you want to achieve with this year-long initiative?
What I think is the entire history of our country, how the indigenous and those settlers came. I think what we try to do is to let our people know that we are one people, and to keep the peace of our country, to understand that this is our land, not a particular people. So the bicentennial brings us together to celebrate our history of how Liberia came to be one country and one people. So we want to celebrate the 200 years to make sure that we all have our liberty and with our respect and our dignity that we belongs in the country. And the reason we're doing this is because out of our past, we had a past that most of us felt that other people was not part of our society and they should not be governed. So we want to show that we all belong to the country. All of us can be leaders in the country, and we can live together in peace and harmony. And this is why we are celebrating the bicentennial, so people can have their right. Imagine you got a son that born abroad, and then he will be deemed as a foreigner. He can obtain a dual citizenship. That is wrong. A born Liberian, a Liberian is always a Liberian, no matter what you do. So we need to make sure that our people know that no matter where you are born with Liberian parents, you are Liberian. So we wanted to showcase and then celebrate our diversity. I think it's important for us. And this is why we are promoting the bicentennial so people can come home and develop their country and have a place in their own home, and not to be to believe that they are marginalized, they are not accepted. So it's just a reunification, of our existence, and this is what we try to do.
You talked about that unity. Let's say there's someone who has Liberian parents, but they were born in the United States, but they moved back here. Will you extend them the right to vote? Will you look at doing what Ghana and Sierra Leone is doing, is offering citizenship for African Americans and others? So what are some of the things that you're considering doing?
What if you had a Liberian parent, you are born in America or France? I mean, you're a citizen of the country. That's the first thing we have to recognize. we cannot alienate you because you were born in another country. Automatically, you should be a citizen. So I'm promoting that a born Liberian should always a Liberian.
So just like if I had parents and they were in the military and they were in Germany, even if I was born in Germany, I'm still an American citizen.
Yeah, but you are a Liberian because you're born with a Liberian parents.
Right.
That's the point we're trying to raise. That's the point. Imagine my son, Timothy. He was not born in Liberia, but that's my son.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You were born in America, and he bear the American passport. How can a Timothy Weah, you know, he plays for American national team, how can a Timothy Weah is not a Liberian? I don't think it's fair to our children, you know. Our country, most people left here because of the Civil War. And they obtain citizenship everywhere, you know, for greener pasture. You know, but at the end of the day, they have to obtain a visa to come here or get their second passport. And some people are hiding their passports. You understand? You shouldn't be hiding. You should bear a Liberian passport and the country that you're from. I think it's the right thing to do. That's, we talk about rights, human rights. That's their right, the right of their forebears.
Your thoughts about extending citizenship to others in terms of wanting them to make Liberia home, again, similar to what Sierra Leone and Ghana has been doing?
Yeah, we're trying to do so. And this is why we proposed the dual citizenship the other day. And I will hope that our people accept that because it's important. It also builds our economy. Because when people feed at home and people believe that they have a place, they invest, you know. And if you look at the world today, and the United States and France, Europe, as you can say, a lot of people have immunity and they invest because they believe that it's their home. So they have huge investment and stay right there and invest.
Let's just talk about what do you want to see in terms of a relationship specifically with African Americans? I mean, the reality is this is the only African nation where African Americans have found the country. And I can tell you there are many African Americans who don't even know the story, don't even know the history. You have folks who came from Virginia, Mississippi, and North Carolina, and Ohio. And so with the celebration, are you looking at doing bicentennial celebrations in the United States to also galvanize the 1 million Liberians there and to teach others about this history?
Well, I think what we did here, I mean, it can be a standard everywhere in our community, you know, to make sure that people are joined together, you know, for a common goal. And this is what, and we are doing it. Liberians are a way to understand that other people came here, you know, for us to move on. And I think it is important for us to maintain the peace, you know. The world today, it is a global world. We all have to work together. We all have to be one people. You have to understand my culture so I can understand your culture. Mm-hmm. Remember, Martins, I'm a Liberian, but I live in Europe. I live in America. I was accepted by different race of people, you know, the different color of people. So I'm the leader today, you know, and the world can be a better place when we all join hands and we all unite. It doesn't matter your color, your creed, your religion, or whatever view. We have to live together.
You mentioned investment. What was the last major investment into the country? I was told it's been several years. So what do you see as the struggle? What do you see as the block? What is it that you need to see happen here in order to make that a reality, to be able to provide economic opportunities, be able to provide jobs, building of skill set, building of education, allowing you to execute your plan when it comes to infrastructure?
It's to attract investment in every facet. You know, you see our country, and Liberia needs to be developed. Liberia needs to have a rural connectivities. We need to have electricity, water, and we need to have more facilities that will attract people.
Was there anything that's hindering that?
Say that?
Is there anything that's hindering that, that's preventing that from happening?
What is happening just bit by bit, and I believe that with rule of law, and respect for human dignity and fairness, I think people will be attracted, they will come, and this is what we're doing. But we took charge already by making sure that we're building our roads and our infrastructure to make sure that it attract people, and that's the way we can build our economy. And if people are not attracted to our country, definitely the business will be scarce and opportunity will not be given to our people.
You talked about connectivity. So whether you're talking about electricity, whether you're talking about roads.
Road connectivity.
I mean, you've got, as I talk to different people, they talk about beautiful beaches and surfing, but they say it's hard to get to. They say even this part of Liberia where you're from, they say it takes way too long to get there.
Well, then you understand what I'm talking about, road connectivity. I came from the southeastern region, and then, of course, for so many years, during the rainy season, there's no access to good roads. And this is why we're doing our best to make sure that all of the road heading to our hinterland, it will be paved, and so people can get access to, and not just being in Monrovia, but to have access to the entire country and to get to our neighboring country. You got Ivory Coast, you got Guinea, next door. We need to go, we trade, but sometimes it's very difficult during the rainy season, and this is what we're pushing. We make sure that the proper agenda work for those that really need it, and this is what we're doing.
What is that going to cost? What does that mean in terms of, have you studied, obviously you studied it, but even from a roads standpoint, how much do you need to make that happen?
What I would say it's a huge investment, and it's a huge investment. I can't put a number on it, but I sure.
Exceeds $1 billion?
It should be more than that. For Liberia to be connected, it should be more than that. And we hope that our partners understands that and bring the companies, bring the resources, and help us to build this country.
Let's talk about education, because I don't care where you go. That is a huge deal. You have a very young country. You talked about the war, average age being 19 years old. Also need to have skill set developed. And so what is your plan for this country educationally?
What we have, we are doing our best to make sure that we promote the sector, educational sector. And Martin, this country is the oldest country, as I said to you. And today, more than 50 to 75 years in our sector. Today we have digital education. So it tells you that we are doing our best to make sure the sector works, because I believe in education. I've been in the country, never had the opportunity. I won't say go to good school, because every school that you go to, it depends on the person, Yeah, I never had the opportunity and then to complete school year. But I went away, pursue my career, my dream, to be one of the best athletes in the world. And after that, I went to school. So I know the importance of education. And this is why we're doing our best. Today, if you walk around, you see that all public universities are free today for children to have access to school. And because I believe in education, and this is why we're doing our best to make sure we promote this sector. Because every young person, every citizen has the right to education. But when it's not free, it's difficult, and this is why we give free education. And we're going to encourage every government that will come after us to make sure that Liberians go to school free. Encourage them. Whether it's a technical school or whatever, it should be free.
Are you concerned about brain drain? Are you concerned about your young folks getting restless and saying, you know what, I don't see a future in Liberia, I need to leave. I'm going to go to Sierra Leone, I'm going to go to Ghana, I'm going to try to get to America. How much of a concern is that? And so what are you going to do to ensure that you're talented, you're smartest, you're most ambitious stay here to rebuild this country?
Well, I think what I believe is not even leaving, because you can have an opportunity and go away, prepare yourself and come back. That's not the point of the promoting the education sector. The point of what I try to raise, they got some people here that will never leave. They're going to be here. And they might never have opportunity to go away. Those people are the people we have to make sure that we save. Those kids that people believe that they don't have any future, that's the future we have to touch. And this is why we have to make sure we got technical school, we got free school, so they can be encouraged to go to school. And that's that's what I'm trying to say here, and the point I'm trying to raise. I had an opportunity to go away. I never had a chance to pay my own school fees, but I had the opportunity to go away to play professional soccer. After that, I went to school, and I came back. So, but how many of us will go and come back? You still have children that are looking for opportunity to go to school, and that's what we have to fix. Build their future for tomorrow, because when you are educated, you have the possibility of being employed. You know, it doesn't matter. All forms of education, you can be employed because you have the strength, you have the knowledge. Whether it's a technical school, it's a normal schools, and what have you. So we need to build our sector to make sure we promote the sector, promote education, and encourage young people to go to school.
How do you also change the perception that some have? And I hear it a lot when people talk about trying to do business in Africa. First thing people bring up, corruption. They say, you know, I'm not paying bribes. I'm not dealing with folks who they're taking too long. It's slow down. I don't know if I'm going to get my money back. You got that one thing. Then you have the people who have the perception that, frankly, you know what? I don't really see skilled labor to be able to go to these countries. And so the reality is you have to battle that perception that people have in other parts of the world, including America.
Well, I mean, sometimes perception
becomes reality.
It becomes reality when people don't understand. But again, why will you have a perceived mind if you come to a process that is fair? You shouldn't have any perceived mind of corruption, because first of all, you come to Liberia to do business. There are institutions, there are processes in place. Follow the process. If you circumvent the process, you may fall into people, you know, everywhere in the world, even in the United States, in France, you got people that are con artists. Yeah. They're waiting for those people that they believe that they are vulnerable to take advantage. So the best thing to do is when you go to a country to do business, you have the processes there, you have the legitimate agency that you do business with. When those people corrupt you, then the government has a responsibility to make sure that they question them, but not going behind the curve to do business. And it's not the right thing to do, because you know what I'm saying. Here we have rules, we have autonomous agency, we have compliance institutions that are responsible to make sure that people come and invest. So you should be going to those people so you can invest and then follow the rules. So sometimes when people talk about corruption, I don't understand. The last time I was in Dubai, it's the same question they posed, and I asked the same question. If we have an investment commission here and you come to invest, why don't you go to the investment commission? Why are you looking for people to take you around? It's wrong. Go to the government institution. When the government institution corrupt you, then of course they will be apprehended, there will be a question. Then you can go and say, well, the country is corrupt. But if you go beyond the curve because you believe that anybody can make you do business in a country that have the rule of law, then you'll be making a mistake.
So what you're saying is, if you want to do business with Liberia, go through your national investment corporation? You said go to them. Don't go to an individual in this city or this city.
It's the best thing to do. You see, Martin, a lot of people, and that question, what is the deem of corruption? You know, people come to do business and just get anybody. And those people corrupt them, take money from them, and they complain that, oh, they went to Liberia. No, you went to Liberia and you found somebody, or you on the internet talking to people that con you, you understand, that deceive you and bring you into the country. And at the end of the day, you don't even see the authorities, and then you get frustrated. So those are the things. So coming to Liberia to invest, you have the bureau, the National Investment Commission. I show when you pass through those entity, and then the processes you follow it, and then you don't have reason to say that the country is corrupt. You know what I'm saying? Because if you telling somebody corrupt, if you go behind the curve, then you also, you know, encouraging corruption. Right. So if you're an honest person, you have to honesty have to prevail.
Liberia is obviously an ally of the United States. Has been for quite some time. What more do you want to see from America? There are African Americans, the Liberians in the United States, there are African Americans who say, hey, they can petition their members of Congress. You're going to be meeting here with members of the Congressional Black Caucus. What more do you want to see from the United States when it comes to helping rebuild and grow Liberia?
What the question I want to ask you, if Americans believe that Liberia is developed?
I'll answer it this way. I don't think a lot of Americans even know about Liberia.
Okay, so we need to.
And then they don't even. First of all, they still see Africa as a country versus a continent.
So you see, so but those that we work with, which is the Congress people, they believe that they have done well. But look at our institution. We are partners. Are they satisfied with what they see, or they believe that Liberia needs to advance more than what it is? Security, or the rule of law, and what have you. We are prepared, we are willing to work with them. So the Liberia, which is the oldest independent African state, you can see, just a couple of years, we tried to obey our rules. So how long we never had a rural connectivity? Even our institutions, our government don't have their own building. They rent from other people. So this is a oldest country, you know. So
wait a minute. You're renting from other people for government offices? Wow.
It's always been like that, and this is why we are trying to make sure that government get into our own facility, so it can be able to reduce the government budget, the cost. So we are partners. We stay talking. We stay convincing them to make sure that this is the country that we all learned the history. We read. You understand? Now we are leaders now. So sit down with our counterparts and say, hey, the country needs to be more than what it is. You know. But again, they are doing their best. You know, they're doing their best. We're working together to make sure that we make sure the rule of law is in place, and people have their rights and what have you. We talk about democracy, you know, and for democracy to prevail. Martin, I'm the former peace ambassador for this country, and what I always said to my people, you listened to me the other day, without peace, our war will be difficult. You understand? So the only way we can gain growth is when we foster peace with unity. And so no one can gain growth. Without that, it's impossible, almost impossible. You know, during the disarmament, you know, and I said to the kids, you can hold the guns as long as you want to hold it. It will never benefit you, because it's the wrong thing. So you need to lay down arms and go toward a path of prosperity. We're heading towards a path of prosperity. It's not just not about politics. You know, I'm not a politician, and you know I'm not a politician. No. I'm a administrator that came into politics because I wanted to change certain things. Right. Today, we would have known that in the village where I live in 1975, today we'll have a solar light. We have a light. We have the huts being removed, and we build a home, free home for those people. And so in every facet of our society, we want to see those things, we want to see change, where people can easily live in their homes and they can use even a bathroom without going outside. So these are the things we're doing. That's the proper agenda, is to awaken everybody so we can be a light to face our institution, to build the life of our people, to encourage them, to even invest in our education center in the rural area, because everybody has the responsibility to the growth of this country. We need to fight very hard. You know, it's not just corruption and this. Some people are limited. We need to help those people that are limited.
So 50 years from now, 100 years from now, there's someone who is reading, the Liberian student, and they're reading, and they come across your name. What do you want them to say, not about what you did on the field? What do you want them to say 50 years from now about your presidency?
What, as I always said, you know, when I live here, when my children, are in the society with those people that I lead, when they point the finger at them, they must say, wow, this boy, father, was a nice, a kind, and a good president. So they can live with them when I'm not here anymore. And this is why I'm doing everything to make sure that we help our people. So tomorrow, nobody can point finger on my children and say, well, look at him. If father was here, he didn't do anything. So everything that I do, I want the society to see honesty and to see that we try to improve the lives of our people. You know, it's not about what I've done already on the field, you know, but I know when I live here, those honest people will see there will be a legacy, there will be a mark, and they're going to see that, wow, George Weah, everybody thought that he was never going to make it. Today, this is what we got. And I'm fighting hard, Martin. It's not an easy task, but I want to build this country for the time I'm here, you know? And it's all honesty. You know, this is my country. I live in the country. I ran the street of this country. Everywhere, in the ghetto, you just name it. You understand? I went outside to promote the image of this country. During the war, I was from one refugee camp to another refugee camp. And this is why when I talk about peace, I know how they live in refugee camps. And I'm back here, and I'm the president. And that's why I ask every Liberian, it doesn't matter what you think, keep the peace of this country. There's no need to be boisterous. There's no need to be rude, you know, be humble. Politicians or opposition, what have you, speak the language that will give you the opportunity to be leader in the future. So I want every Liberian, when I'm not here no more, it's not just for the praise, to see my mark. The legacy is being kept and left. And this is how I want to live. So tomorrow, it's not just going there to promote Africa in sports, you understand? But in my country. But today, you can see that every African know that when it was difficult, it was not just playing this, kicking the soccer ball around. It was the message that we gave, that we all can work together. There's no need to be racist. You know, we can work together. And this is a world of diversity. I have to know you, you have to know me. The things that you don't like, I have to make sure that I don't do the things you don't like. We can work together. And I was successful in doing that. And I want to do this in my country. Peace in Liberia is the best way. No peace is the wrong thing to do. So again, I'm honored to be here with you, you know, to answer your question. But I think you should be coming. You should be coming often. You know, encourage people to come. This is a beautiful country.
It is.
Warm people, kind-hearted, Good people. In every society, you will see some.
That's everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. But they call it. And the good thing about it, like I said, I live in New York, Staten Island, live in Queens, I live in Miami, Fort Lauderdale. You know, the world is like that. You got some good people, you got some bad people. But the most important, there should be more good people than the bad people. And we are heading to world growth. We want to develop our country. And we will do all we can for this country to be a better place. So when you come next time, you see that, wow. That's it.
Well, you talked about buildings, so you're not going to take a walk. You're going to tell me what y'all been doing with this building here.
Well,
yeah, we're just going to, so here's what we're going to do. He's going to disconnect the audio, just to connect to the camera, and we're just going to walk down there.
It's the right thing to do. This is our palace. Been burned 16 years ago. We have to restore this. And this is why we're doing it bit by bit. So you can see, we're here, that's the image of the country. And we want to restore the image of this country. And this is why I've done my best. Talk to the parliament to make sure that in the budget, we save this sacred home of our country. It's not just about just president coming into this. I got my home that I go to. I come here to work, you know. But again, there's the image of our capital.
Right.
It's the image of our country. So it was the right thing to do. So it's not to make the news. It's the best thing to do and the right thing to do. And this is why we restore this place. And bit by bit, we're going to fix it to the level that it's supposed to be. But now it's ready for work. And our country image is, we're going to go to we're going to receive people in the executive mansion while we are working. I think it's the best thing to do.
But it will make the news. So we're going to ask,
definitely will make the news. Anything that you do, not for the news, always make the news.
Good or bad. Yeah. So you're not going to take a walk? So, Mr. President, let's see your palace.
Mr. Bundy, you told me you know the place, so you...
Well, tell me, so this is an 8-story building?
Yes, I believe.
And so you said bit by bit. So what they told me is you've already restored, about 4 floors?
Yeah, about two, 3 floors. And the yard, yeah, it's where you restore the image. You see where people, there's a capital. The capital building is just next door, and the mansion is faced. That everywhere it's faced here, it can complement each other.
So you talked about growing up here. I mean, so this had to be the crown jewel
yeah,
for
definitely.
the country.
Every child wanted to come here to see. I was born right next door, on Capitol Hill, Maternity Center, and I came here so many times. And I was lucky to visit the palace with 2 presidents. I had the opportunity to visit the place because I was the captain of the national team. So I'm always coming on behalf of the national team to speak to the leaders, you know what I'm saying? So I know what it was. It's a beautiful place. It's a nice place. And then we just wanted to restore. Isn't this good?
I got to admit, when we came here, to see the place, I'll tell you, when I stepped out here, it'll be a little hard for me to work with this view here, sitting out, because I probably would come out here and just look at the ocean the whole time.
Well, your leisure time, you'll come here and just walk around. I mean, you de-stress. This is better than where we were at the foreign ministry. I think it's better. And this represents our country. And this is what we did it. It represents our country. We all know the story, how and this building. But again, the question that I asked, 1 floor was burned, but the whole mansion was looted. Why? Is that love for country? Sure, if that 1 floor that was burned, today we're going to fix that 1 floor, the whole mansion is going to be restored. You see, so I just trying to tell you, there are some people that don't care. We care, you know, because 1 floor got burned, But the entire mansion was looted. Nobody asked questions. You understand? But I think what we try to do is to continue to move on a peaceful path, and it's leadership, one after another. It's not to criticize anybody, but to continue where they left it, and then what we can do, and then after us, the next person come and take it from there. That's the best leadership style. You see,
a smooth transition from one president to the next.
That's it. You know, that's it. And our partner with the Americans, we see how their democracy works. But there's other people that don't believe in that, and they cause trouble and chaos. You
Like the one who just left. Yes, I understand.
You understand? so it's the society that we live. But again, the best thing to do is to keep telling people, look, this is the right thing to do. You know, to forcing and fighting, it's not the essence of life. Because when you destroy, there's no hope.
Right.
You know, when everything is okay, when you can dialogue, then you have a hope. You know, you can be what you want to be. You know, anybody can be somebody. You never know. That's what I said to my friends. I was here with you. I was in the street. I'm in the ghetto, born with parents that have great possibility, but I ended up in the ghetto. But my destiny was not tied into the ghetto. But maybe that was experience to continue to see how things are. Now, when I decided to discipline myself, I saw myself somewhere else, opportunity, and today I'm here. But when you're alive, there's a lot of opportunity you can get. If you are no more, you're gone. So war and destabilization, all those things are not called for.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I can be here tomorrow when I'm here. I can see what you do when you get there. And, you know, and maybe you need my advice. Then I can advise you to say, well, when I was there, that certain thing I did, and I could have achieved it, but I could not. But I think that's the best thing to do. So we leaders today, we can work tomorrow for the country, even as an agent of the country. You know, so we shouldn't see each other as just politicians. We family. We want family. Most of my friends that I grew up with in school, they are running against. Some of them ran against me. You understand? They ran against me. But that's the beauty of true democracy. You understand? I went to 2 elections, not in 2005 and 2010. The first, I went as a head of the ticket. The second, and they put me out. And then the third, I still on the head. And today I'm here. 2005 was not my, how to call it, but again, what happened in 2005? If I were going to persist and resist and believe that fighting was the way, it was not the rule of law, or looking at the country to move forward, maybe I'm not going to be here. Maybe I'm not going to be here. But the fact that I could even accept to be peace ambassador of what happened in the previous elections, since I had to call it today, I'm the president. So you can see that when there's peace, there's prosperity. You understand? So I want everybody to understand when I talk about peace, because it's important. It's important.
President George Weah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having us here.
Thank you, Martin. And good to see you.
Right, we don't do the handshakes, but we'll definitely do we'll do that.
I see you in your apartment.
Well, I was in Ghana for the year return in 2019.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Nice.
So I have a designer there who hooked me up.
Oh,
so,
that's good.
Yeah, I wasn't going to wear a suit. There's no suit in my bag, so I got all traditional gear.
You'd be surprised. I'm the the actual propos maker. I brought the style in the propos.
I know. No, they made sure that I go back with several outfits.
That's it. Propos, how you call it? Propos.
Propos.
Yeah.
Oh, propos. So I go back. So it's called propos suit?
Yeah, propos suit. Yeah,
okay.
Propos, yeah.
But I can't wear with the tennis shoes.
You can wear with sneakers, you can wear with anything.
I got to wear loafers.
Loafers.
Can't wear tennis shoes.
But that's good. Loafers is good. That's the best thing to do.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much and good luck.
Okay.
We're going to get